Hello and welcome. Those of you who watch my videos on a regular basis, and there's at least one of you, will have heard me say in the past that the bus industry tends to be evolutionary rather than revolutionary. And while that certainly tends to be true, the 1950s were probably an exception to this case and tended to be more revolutionary than evolutionary. You had the last of the pre-war vehicles coming out of service, some of which were certainly petrol-engined, and you had newer diesel-engine vehicles coming into service, and the 1950s would see the revolutionary types such as the Bristol Low-Decker and the Leyland Atlantean enter service. Also during the 1950s, in London, the last of the RT class entered service, whilst the cutting-edge technology design of the London Transport Routemaster also entered service. And you'd also see the appearance of long-running designs such as the AEC Reliance and the Leyland Leopard. And then there was the Guy Wolfronian, which we probably won't mention too much. However, in August 1958, the Birmingham and Midland Motor Omnibus Company Limited, better known as BMMO Midland Red, unveiled a prototype of an advanced 30-foot long high-capacity double-decker bus. And this design has been compared to the London Transport Routemaster and in some cases has been called the Midland Routemaster because of its advanced design. I am, of course, talking about the D9 double-decker. Now, compared to anything that had gone before it, this was a huge bus, but the length restrictions on double-deckers had been changed in 1956, and BMMO had been looking at building a large bus way back in the very early 1950s. Now, they could have done what Bristol did with the original LD low-decker and just lengthened the existing model, which was the D7. But BMMO decided that with the way that the technology was moving on, that it was easier just to completely redesign a new vehicle. The first D9 design had a front-mounted 6-cylinder 10.5 litre engine, which was built by Birmingham Midland Motor Omnibus, and this was the KL engine. The design also featured a hydraulically operated 4-speed semi-automatic gearbox, which was built by Self-Changing Gears of Coventry. And this is where it starts to get very technical and cutting edge, because in addition to those specifications, it also had disc brakes on both axles, power steering, and the front axle was independently sprung, and variable rate rubber suspension was used all the way through the bus. The body was also built by BMMO and was fully integral, and it was of a half-cab construction and had the very distinctive look with the front wheels set slightly back from the front of the vehicle. The bodywork was constructed from aluminium, but there were certain sections, such as the roof domes, that were made from fiberglass. The rear platform featured electric doors, and the bus seated 72, which was 40 upstairs and 32 downstairs. Now, that set-back front axle allowed for quite a short wheelbase of just 17 foot 1.5 inches, which made a very tight turning circle for the bus. I suppose it was a little bit like the bus equivalent of a London taxi. The first D9, carrying the registration number 773FHA, was built in early 1958 and was handed over to the development department for extensive testing in April of that year. It was shown off to the industry press for the first time in August 1958, and it entered service at Bearwood Garage on Thursday the 5th of February 1959. During 1959, work began building the first production batch of buses, and these were 94 buses and the bodywork was all built in-house by BMMO at their central works, the Carlisle Works. These buses being completed late in 1959 and starting to enter service from very early 1960. There were a few detail differences between the production vehicles and the prototype. Things such as the fuel tank being moved from the near side to the offside, for example. And an emergency opening window was also fitted on the first bay on the offside. On this first batch of buses, the braking system was also different, with drum brakes being fitted at the rear and disc brakes being fitted at the front. However, later batches of buses were fitted with drum brakes all round. And this Pioneer first batch were also retrofitted this way with hydraulic drum brakes all round. Something that was a very distinctive feature of the BMMO D9 and also other buses at the time was the illuminating advertising panels which were between the lower deck and upper deck on the outside of the bus. Again, as with other vehicles of the time fitted with exterior illuminated advertising, these were illuminated from within by fluorescent tubes, which was again quite cutting-edge technology for the 1950s, early 60s. This would see the fluorescent tubes powered by direct current to alternating current inverters, which basically converts 12 or 24 volt through to 240 volt to power the lighting, something that is still used in modern buses today. On the D9, these inverters were installed below the staircase, but unfortunately they had a habit of making the batteries go flat. So from 1961, all D9s were fitted with alternators, as opposed to dynamos. 4927, registered 927 KHA, was built with experimental fiberglass panels. Now these fiberglass panels were meant to be lighter, but more importantly and interestingly, they were also pre-coloured red, the theory being that the bus didn't need repainting. However, these panels weren't found to be totally successful and the bus received normal repaints. Interestingly as well, this was the first bus to be lit internally by fluorescent tubes rather than traditional tungsten bulbs, and all subsequent buses were lit by fluorescent tubes. All in all, there were 3 production batches built of the D9, and a total of 345 D9s built. By 1964, production of the D9 though had slowed down to a crawl, with only 6 examples entering service between January and July of 1965. This being down to BMMO having a shortage of skilled staff. These skilled workers being tempted away by better paid jobs within the West Midlands motor industry that was flourishing at the time, places such as BMC's factory at Longbridge, for example. Production was stopped and the remaining 45 chassis, along with part-finished buses, were sent to Willowbrook of Loughborough to have their bodywork completed, with deliveries resuming in December 1965. With the production levels back to as they should be, the entire batch had been delivered and entered service by the end of November 1966. A bit like the London Transport Routemaster, the D9 was built entirely to meet the needs of one operator, and that was Midland Red. However, unlike AEC, who did market the Routemaster elsewhere and send demonstration vehicles to other operators, there was no effort made by BMMO to sell or market the D9 to other bus operators. As with operators around the country, Midland Red was absorbed into the National Bus Company in 1968, and eventually some of the D9s adopted the poppy red livery. Now, one of the things you hear said in a negative way about the National Bus Company is the lack of choice between leaf green and poppy red colour schemes. But I must admit, I think the poppy red and the white relief stripe suit the D9s quite well, and you can shoot me now if you really want to. In 1973, West Midlands PTE was created, and a large quantity of the D9s went to this operator. West Midlands entered into a 4-year agreement with Midland Red to maintain and repair their vehicles. The last D9 ran in regular passenger service in December 1979, but 10 were later sold to London for sightseeing work, where they operated in the obsolete fleet, which was owned by the late great Prince Marshall, with 7 of these buses being converted to open tops. Just under 30 other buses was sold on to independent operators. Now I've had a look and there seems to be about 6 D9s preserved, including one of the London open top conversions. Over the years, the D9s have had their fair share of criticism, people saying that it was an uninspired design and didn't look particularly attractive. And I personally have to disagree with this because I think it's quite a good looking vehicle, isn't it? I think the smaller windows and the setback front axle help emphasise the size of the bus. And everything seems to be in proportion, doesn't it? Anyway, we have reached the end of the story of the BMMO D9 double-decker bus. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. So what are your memories of the D9 double-decker bus? Have you ever travelled on one? Have you ever driven one? Did you work on them, maintain them? Or were they part of the townscape of your local area? As always, please let me know and share your memories in the comments down below. I love reading them and I do always try and reply to them all if I can. So if you did enjoy this special edition of Classic Bus Histories, please like and share it amongst your unsuspecting friends and family. They will love to be spammed by you sending them strange bus videos. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already, and click the notification bell so you get notifications of when I make future releases in this and my other series here on YouTube. I try to release videos on Saturdays and Wednesdays, so on those days we climb aboard our YouTube time machine and travel back to some distant point in the past. And by watching and supporting the channel, you are helping preserved buses as well. All money raised through YouTube goes towards the care and the restoration of the Southern Counties Omnibus Collection bus fleet. Southern Counties Omnibus Collection being a registered charity. So thank you very much for watching and supporting our channel and helping our old ladies in their retirement. Bye for now.